Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our first Show and Tell 2024. Happy New Year to everyone out there. Hope you had a great holiday season and got some much needed rest and relaxation. This is a great way to start the new year. We're really excited to continue with our monthly Show and Tell webinars. We do this the first Wednesday of every month. And for any of you out there who may be joining us for the first time because a colleague or a friend passed along the link, we welcome you. This is just a quick chance each month for our creative team, some of our creative team from around the globe, to come together and just share some things that are currently inspiring us, things that we love, people that we love. And we just want to share them with you. And it's just a very simple notion, but very meaningful, and we're always so excited to do it. So we do it 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, first Wednesday of every month. The next one will be on Wednesday, February 7th. And just as a reminder, don't feel the pressure to write down the links. We're going to share a document with you later this week with both everyone's links from today, and you can always find recordings of previous show and tells both on our YouTube channel, and if you're a client of FS, you can find it on our webpage as well. So before we start with our links, just a few housekeeping things. We love to chat during show and tell. If you joined before, you know that. So use your chat box and let us know if you have any questions, if you missed something, or you have any, if you have some things that you're really loving as we share them. Just make sure that you choose everyone so that both attendees and FS team members can see your comment. Ellie from our marketing team is just going to take us through a couple of upcoming events that we want you to know about. Hey, Ellie.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. So before we jump into this month's show and tell, I just briefly wanted to share some information about two of our upcoming events. So the first event I wanted to talk about today is our 2026 Macro Trends webinar that takes place on the 16th of January. We will discover the macro trends predicted to shape creative and strategic thinking across lifestyles and industries in 2026 and learn about the cultural signals and emerging conversations driving each macro trend. Now, this is a client exclusive webinar. So if you're a client of FS, you can register by logging into the Trend platform and you'll see this big banner and just follow the link to register. But if you're not a client, we do have an event for you too. So on the 31st of January, we're hosting the Future of Wellness. And for the first time, we're combining our annual trend insights with space data analytics for a deep dive into the hottest wellness trends influencing all industries and shaping consumer behavior. It's free to attend, and you can find the registration link on our website at fashionsnoops.com/events. But I will also put it in the chat in a second as well. That is all for me, and I'll hand it back over to Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, the future of wellness is always a really popular topic. So make sure that you join us for that. Let me just get our links up for today. Today, we have the women's team and the youth team that are going to share some team inspiration with us before we move on to the other links of today. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Moylan and the rest of the women's team now for that.
Thanks, Michael. I think we'll just start. We're kind of going to go back and forth between our team members. And the first one that we'd like to share comes from Katie Brody, who is our retail analyst on the women's wear team. I'm Melissa Moylan. I'm the VP of Women's, and we're also joined with Patricia Maida, who is our Director of Women's. So Katie, take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Nice to chat with you all today. I wanted to share an interesting article I came across. It's Behind the Tech, Building Trust in an Evolving World of Counterfeits with Entropy. So this company and article, it speaks to both AI and, technology and fashion. I thought it was really fit to speak about an issue that's been long plaguing the creative and fashion industry for years, which is counterfeits. So they highlight entropy, which is combating this, this counterfeit issue. It emerged in 2016 and founded by Viduth Srinivasan. They are a tech company that uses AI to authenticate luxury items through machine learning backed authentication platform. So learning about this, they really pride themselves with offering their clients, who are mostly business to business as of now, trust in transactions. So they service retailers and sellers, and their mission really is to provide a scalable protection against counterfeit. So how it works is that they have a device that kind of looks like an iPhone. I think there's a picture of it in the article. And you scan your products or luxury items, and the photos get uploaded to the cloud. And they created these advanced algorithms to analyze minute details of the product to a really, really extreme and focused degree, so they could tell immediately whether it's real or fake, which is super interesting. Also, he mentioned that people will purchase real luxury items and then return them and swap them with a fake. So that's been something that's been plaguing the industry as well. He mentioned that the owner mentioned that these are called super fakes, which are like the latest and high quality counterfeit products. So, his development with these technologies really combats that. So it's pretty cool. I think honestly, this is really just the beginning. But I'm super happy to see progress being made to counteract, fraudulent products and help to protect consumers from buying fake and counterfeit goods. So I thought it was really cool.
Thanks, Katie. I think we really liked that one. I felt like it's interesting that currently it's positioned as a tool that retailers and brands are using. And I wanted to ask, do you think that this is something that one day might be available to consumers, since, secondhand luxury buying is a really big deal? So do you think this is something that maybe ultimately, I don't know if the company has plans to enter, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's personally what I would hope. I mean, I'd love, the power in the hand of the consumers, even for myself, just to go and just make purchases that are what they actually are, or are what I think they are. He did mention that his company is, providing a scalable model, but as of now, it's just business to business. But, it's something I think that can for sure be adapted, maybe along the ways. Maybe I picture something like it could be an app or something that retailers can use, or something that's like, mass market, available to consumers like wide, so that we can all have that power.
I think the
Well,
way in which they market it to consumers is so important, because it seems like such an intimidating topic. I mean, blockchain and all these other things we've talked about for years, it's really hard to grasp it and what it means. And obviously, everyone understands counterfeiting is a really important issue, but it seems like it's just beyond, anything in a typical consumer's control. So
Yeah,
I
what I
was
thought was oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was wondering if we wanted to bring Peter in from our youth team to kind of comment on it as well. I know, dupes have been a kind of big conversation in that world, and kind of get him to weigh in on it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Ketchkish. I'm a youth analyst here at FS. I've actually been tuning into a lot of kind of discourse on TikTok about the matter. The platform's kind of scroll galleries or carousels have been a great catalyst for conversation, and some of which at the moment is all around kind of counterfeit items and designer knockoffs. And it seems like Gen Z is making their own kind of ground rules, I guess, for what is okay and what isn't when it comes to bootleg design. Balenciaga, especially, has been a brand whose designs have been kind of endlessly replicated. And a lot of TikTok users are in agreement that, for example, in the case of Balenciaga, it is okay to purchase knockoff designs as the kind of fashion house, especially in their recent collections directly make fun and parody their own luxury consumer. So a lot of Gen Z feel that those jokes are made at the expense of the brand's kind of loyal consumer base. I thought that was a really interesting kind of point there with that specific brand. On the other hand, there's of course tastemakers like Billie Eilish, for example, who did some good, I guess, for the bootleg market when she first appeared on the scene. She wore the work of a lot of kind of bootleg designers, and even now when she's being dressed in the real deal by these luxury brands, she still incorporates a lot of bootleg pieces into especially her tour and her streetwear looks. So it's interesting because a lot of those kind of bootleg designers that Eilish endorses are often Gen Z themselves. So it's interesting how they kind of remix house codes, and I think they do so because often they don't feel seen by those brands. So it definitely, comes down to not being able to afford the kind of designer pieces, but it also comes down to a level of creativity and the kind of generation's demand to, I suppose, actively participate in brand image curation and to kind of put their own flair on designer gear. So it's definitely an interesting place to watch for youth.
Good insight.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We'll go to the next link, which is one of my shares. So I wanted to share this article from the Financial Times, and hopefully it'll allow you to log in there. Michael, I don't know if
Try
you
again.
logged in.
Sometimes it's early. Financial Times gives us. Okay, here we go.
All right. So this is a profile on the row, and I thought that this was really kind of timely, because as we know, the row is known for kind of these understated classics, quiet luxury before it was even a term. They've widely relied on the use of no media for almost 20 years, which I just found wild that they've been around for almost 20 years to begin with. They started out being anonymous. We didn't know who was behind it. Of course, it's Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. And they just speak about what they love in the article, the highest quality fabrics, which obviously lend to the really, really high price tags in the luxury spectrum. They were quoted saying quiet luxury is not a new concept at all, which I have to agree with. I think, now it's really in the zeitgeist. And they also mentioned when, kind of like asked about demographics, that they're very much ageless and they always have been. And I think that is a really high compliment to pay to a brand to say that they're ageless, because typically I think brands really fit into, demographics, psychographics. They also kind of pride themselves on being curated. And what they show on social, I think, is it's different from everybody else, because everyone else, I think, in the fashion industry, it's not only, the brand, the retailer, things that are surrounding fashion. Everybody tends to make it more personal, and they've always been more private. So we don't know that much about their personal lives, although of course there are kind of fun parody accounts to follow on Instagram too. I also thought that it was super interesting and timely because somebody like Phoebe Philo just launched her own namesake, and she's very well, known for the same type of vibe. We could say that she kind of owns that as well, but she only just launched her namesake now. Towards the end of the article, it kind of talks about what's next for them. They are private, so we don't actually know, volume, but it seems to be building year over year by a lot. It was kind of suggested that potentially they could grow into a fully realized lifestyle business. It talked about a couple of their stores and how, like, in one, they'll carry this capsule of a French jeweler. I didn't even realize, but in London, their store, they also had this James Turrell light installation. So I think that they are actually really well positioned to form a lifestyle business ultimately. And we just wanted to shed some light on that, on a brand. I think that, we believe in, that's on the right track, doing the right things, and also has, very much their own ethos that they follow.
Yeah, and it's funny that I was gonna add to this, but I see a quote here by Julie Gilhart, who used to be the fashion director at Barney's. And back when I was a buyer at Barney's and Men's years ago, I actually met the two of them when they were in the store for something related to women's. And I have to tell you, and I tell people this all the time, they're both incredibly design savvy and intellectual and smart. And they're not just celebrities that put their names on a brand, but they truly are designers and great merchandisers. And it's really interesting to speak to them about fashion and design because they can hold their own and they know what they're talking about, and they're really savvy and great business women. So I only met them that one time, but it was really great to talk to them back then. So
Yeah, that's great insight. It sounds like they are even probably more intertwined because they actually started it when I think they were 20,
yeah.
like right off of studying. And it's kind of amazing what they were able to cultivate in,
Yeah.
that period of time.
I want to jump in here because I'm also a huge fan of the raw and quiet minimalism.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, Melis, since we know that quiet luxury was such a major trend in 2023, do you think it's a trend that has longevity and will stay relevant in 2024, or do you think it may evolve into something else?
That's a great question. And it's one we've spoken to quiet luxury within the women's market in our product shifts and other items that tap into it and narratives as well. I think right now it's such a buzzy term and now everybody knows what it is. It existed before that. And I think, um one of the Olsons mentioned in the article, like this isn't a new thing that we've cultivated, but I think also where we're at in terms of, consumerism post-COVID world, tapping into finally like these wardrobe essentials, and going for things and products that last. I think that is going to be something that we continue to see reinvented in a new way. And I think we've been, even trying to think back of webinars where we've kind of tried to surface and conjure up, okay, how do we get rid of disposable fashion? Let's invest in pieces that really matter and quality. So I think that we'll just continue to see ways that that evolves. And, more brands also catering to we know you already have this in your wardrobe. This is how we could add to it this season.
Yeah, we've had this in men's forever because there's always been Italian brands like Cucinelli and Loro Piana and Zegna. It's all the big brands when we go to Pitti Uomo, and they've always personified quiet luxury. And I feel like just because it's a really fabric first kind of aesthetic, because that's what you kind of geek out over, are the beautiful fabrics and how luxurious they are. So I feel like people just want to like wear real clothes now and don't necessarily have to or want to dress for TikTok and Instagram only, but they just want to be enveloped in beauty and all of these luxurious fabrics and silhouettes. And so it seems like in regards to that, it has a lot of staying power, and it's just a much more meaningful version of what we saw in the 90s, which was really stark and very different. So
It's a great parallel, Michael.
Patricia, do you want to talk about Diesel?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think you can just stop the video for a second, but I
Okay.
wanted to share this
Yeah.
new project by Glenn Martins, who's the creative director of Diesel, which I think really disrupts what fashion collaborations have been thus far. Basically, Diesel will share its unsold stock, materials, manufacturing, and resources with the denim community, meaning all its competitors, in an effort to tackle the problem of overproduction in our industry. So this will be a limited edition capsule that is made from existing materials, but it also combines the expertise of two competitors, which I think is really special and basically one of a kind. And on top of that, 100% of the profits will go to the United Nations Refugee Agency. So I've linked two videos. The first one here is with Glenn Martins, where he explains the project. And the second link is their first collaboration with Lee, who's another denim giant. So we can watch the video.
I'm actually going to just stop share for a second. I just want to do it again so we can get the sound properly. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Introduce you Diesel Loves, a challenge to the industry standard of brand collaborations. We've envisioned this program as a continuous capsule in which two iconic brands share creativity and manufacturing resources in order to find impactful solutions. The result is a limited edition capsule made entirely from unsold stock or unused materials, a 50-50 between two brands, redesigned and artisanally merged together. Diesel Loves stands for two fashion brands, in theory two competitors, which actually now will work together to create something good. 100% of the profits will be donated to UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agency. This is a call to action to other fashion brands to join us sharing existing materials and creative resources to help empower change and help people. I'm really proud to introduce you Diesel Loves.
You can click on the next video to see the Lee collaboration. The Diesel Loves Lee.
The first chapter of Diesel Loves is Diesel Loves Lee. Diesel Loves Lee is a collaboration between two denim giants coming together to seek solutions. Each of the limited edition Diesel Loves Lee jeans is unique, constructed from upcycled fabric sourced from both brands' respective unsold stock. 100% of the profits will go to the United Nations Refugee Agency.
That's a great one, Patricia. I wanted to ask you, do you think, we've seen so many various types of collaborations and involvement from people outside of the fashion industry. I think it's really interesting that it's like two major denim competitors and they call it that even in, how they're promoting it. Do you think that's something that we might see more of this year?
Honestly, I hope so. I mean, I feel like we've seen the rise and explosion really of brand partnerships that were focused mostly on creating buzz and reaching new audiences, like the case of all the H&M and designer collabs. So for me, this feels like the logical next step where we're really considering the current reality. And really what makes sense today is to join efforts to try to reduce environmental footprint or even maybe sharing the cost of product development. So I think this is a great approach for brand partnerships, really reconsidering what it can be. So I'm hopeful that we'll see more of that.
I love this. I remember during the pandemic when we did our Thrive series, Lily interviewed all of the executives from all the various global trade shows. And we talked a lot about how collaborating together in such a challenging environment is really what makes innovation and whatnot come true. So it's really good to see that kind of collaboration, like, actually in the market and not just the B2B side of it, but actual brands and whatnot as well. This is great. I also haven't heard from Diesel in a really long time, I feel like. So. All right, Katie, back to you. You want to talk about these returns? I've been seeing this all over the media in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the timing's perfect with return season now in full effect after the holidays. So, it's not necessarily a new concept, but that's something that's been gaining so much momentum. I thought a really cool stat from this article was 40% of retailers are charging return fees this year, and it's up from 31% in 2022. This article highlights two things, I think. One, companies, spend more processing returns. I think it was around the cost can cost retailers as much as like 39% of the original price. But I think the bigger reason here is that returns have a hugely negative environmental impact. Return inventory in the US in the last year in 2022 created 9.5 billion pounds of landfill waste and 24 million metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions, which is unfathomable, really. I wanted to also highlight, so Zara and H&M have already been doing this for a couple years, so they have fees in effect. Zara being $3.95 and H&M is $5.99. But what I thought was interesting is that if you're a loyalty member at H&M, the fee is waived, which I thought was interesting, the balance of that. But some of the highest return fees include TJ Maxx at $11.99, Dillard's, which is a US chain here, $9.95. DSW is around $8.50, and JCPenney and J. Crew are around the same for returns. Overall, you know, I think this is a positive change effect and will make people think twice about maybe buying online, buying multiple sizes online, returning, and seeing the impact that that has on the environment, and a massive impact. Not to mention, you know, all of even if you think about a simple return, the gas that it takes for the driver to drive, and the processing and the back end, and just, you know, all of the emissions that negatively impact. So I'm happy to see that more retailers are hopping on the trend here.
Do we
Yeah.
actually think?
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
was gonna
I was
say,
going to ask the same question, Melissa.
okay, do we think that this is going to be a driver for people to get back into stores? Like, if I see a $9.99 return, I'm going in, you know?
Yeah, no, I think so. Especially because all these fees are basically for mail-ins. They're like specifically toward mail-in fees. So
Right.
I personally think it's going to cause like a massive amount of consumers to return to the store. And that's something I would do anyway. When I have a return, I personally go to the store instead of sending in it via mail. Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to change.
I mean, I think everyone would prefer that if they have the retailer close by. And obviously you can notice most of these are more mass retailers. You don't see it as much in the luxury or high-end market, but I agree. Like, I would much rather just go and do it instead of dealing with the label. And so one thing that I do love is a lot of retailers now have QR codes, because most of us don't have printers at home, so it's a real pain in the butt to print out a return label, which is also another reason to go into the store. But some of them have integrated QR codes, so you can go to the postal service or the UPS store, and then they can just print them for you right there, which makes it easier too. But yeah, it is a really hard area to navigate with everyone doing so much more online purchasing now. So
Thank you, Michael.
thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
All right, so next up, we're sticking with retail here. And I wanted to talk about Angelina Jolie's new Atelier Jolie, which you may have heard of. It opened a physical retail space in New York City, 57 Great Jones Street. And this is where Basquiat lived and worked, and rented from Andy Warhol. So it has a lot of, the location alone has a lot of history. There's, of course, being from Angelina Jolie, there's this huge humanitarian slant. It's kind of a collective art, one-of-a-kind approach. There's also a restaurant in there from the collective Eat Off Beat, which I know we spoke to in Show and Tell before, which has meals that are prepared by New York City refugee communities. And I'm going to quote her here, Angelina Jolie, because I think she explains it best. She says, "We are a collective that aims to show an ethical and sustainable lifestyle isn't a lesser life with limitations. It is better quality of life with personal creativity, and community is at its center." So to get to the kind of nitty gritty, and you really can't find much online from the collection, although I think at the bottom of the article, there's some more like lookbook style images, but essentially what she's using in her collection, it uses leftover vintage materials, dead stock, trench coats, suiting. And what I found interesting, and we actually spoke about this on the women's team yesterday, we weren't sure of prices, The prices are kind of anywhere from like $425 for a jacket to $195 for a skirt. They also have $15 t-shirts, which then you're encouraged to customize at the store. In addition, she also has this kind of multi-label brand approach. So she has collections from sustainable brands like Better or We Are For. The way that I guess the space is outlined, and I would love to hear if anybody's actually been yet, is that they have screen printing and kind of patching in the back. And then upstairs, they have more of the atelier space for tailoring. And she has, actual tailors and people with that background. Another thing that's going on, which I think really gave her a boost, especially at the start of her own label, is a collaboration with Chloe that I think is only going to be released at the end of this month. So that's also something, aligning with a certified B Corp luxury label definitely gives her a boost. And it's going to be an interesting one to follow. There's also a great, I listened to a BOF podcast where she was interviewed and also spoke to this. She's very eloquent. But it'll be interesting to see how it, materializes. I like the art slant. I feel like we haven't really, we've seen a lot of DIY and brands try to implement that, but she felt so strongly about having it associated with like the history of like Basquiat used to live and work here, and Andy Warhol. And I feel like she's trying to cultivate that kind of spirit with her new venture.
Melissa, really quick, I'm curious if you think this is scalable or if it's more like one-off in New York.
I think we're gonna have to see how it goes with this one. I feel like it's new and different. Did we need another, celebrity embarking on the fashion world in, a higher end setting? I don't know about that, but I do think her approach and just her, as a person, she's so deeply rooted with humanitarian efforts, and she felt that this was something that was really needed. So I think we'll kind of see if it takes off and if she would want to, expand beyond the New York location. But for now, I think it really does identify what she's going for.
I love the aesthetic though.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's great.
All right. And then Patricia's going to close it out for the women's team.
Yes, and speaking of loving the aesthetic, this is a really fun one. This is the Fluffy Residence by Max Mara, and it's a design installation that marks the 10th anniversary of the iconic teddy bear coat. And they did these pop-up stores around the globe, from London to Tokyo, China, of course, Milan. And everything here is covered in teddy fabric. So you can scroll to the bottom and we can look at the images from the kitchen, the bedroom, and the bathroom. It's just like this cozy heaven that is so amazing. I'm obsessed.
This is so you.
Yeah, I would like to work from there for a day. It'd be fun.
It's really cool, the kitchen part, because of course anyone that knows art history, it immediately reminds us of Dada, and that's what it's like giving me the vibes of, especially this one here. But yeah, it's pretty neat. Look at this.
I think
It's
the bathroom's my favorite.
Oh my God.
I was gonna ask too, like this one is obviously so fun. I wish I could see this one in person and just be there right now. But in terms of value add from brands investing in these pop-up stores, obviously this is only temporary and it captures something that's so iconic with Max Mara. What do you think, what do you think the value is in investing in pop-ups like this?
Well, I think the idea is really merging retail with brand experience. And I think that's so valuable to differentiate the brand in such a competitive landscape. I think it's interesting to see that as online sales keep on going up, we see that brick and mortar is really reinventing itself in so many amazing ways. Like we just saw Jacquemus open the Snow Mountain store. Prada last year opened its own cafe, which is, by the way, stunning. So I think the value here is really to create that consumer engagement that is priceless, and to sell not only products, but like the entire lifestyle that is associated with the brand.
Yeah, and
Right.
anytime that you can connect a sensory or sensorial experience to a brand, it's like a well done win for them. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
really good for branding.
I can't believe it's been 10 years that
I know.
Max has been doing the teddies, because it's
know.
still, you know, our holiday lists of everybody, you know, down the like commercial pipe of trends.
Yeah.
There's always something
Yeah,
that
it's always a perennial point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move around a little bit because it's actually a really good connection, but I wanna introduce our special guest today, Olga, and actually Lily's gonna take it over from here since they're good friends and talk about a really cool topic, and so it's a good connection to what they were just talking about.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you got some rest and time with your family and recouped. I know it's been busy for everyone. A lot is going on in the world. So I'm hoping you guys got to center back into yourself. So yeah, I'm so excited to have a short conversation with Olga. We're going to continue this conversation because there's so much to uncover here. There's no way we can we're doing a little quick hello, and then if you guys want to know more, she has a lot of info on her site, and we actually did an interview a little while back, her and I, part of our Mystic design aesthetic going back a few seasons. But we'll continue this conversation because I'm really interested in this layer of design that is slightly below or more inner, on the inner layer of what we could see. And we were talking about senses and experiences, and this conversation about, is there more to the objects that we buy and to the objects that we design? And we've been talking a lot about you know, the energetic field of objects and how do we choose them and what makes us gravitate towards them. And I'm really also been asking this question of, how do we as creators, you know, get deeper into our own senses, into our own intuition, into our own inner sensitivity while we design, so we could also bring objects to the world that have more of that resonance that's deeper than, you know, simply what we see above the line. So Olga's been diving deep into this topic that she calls spatial alchemy. And I did all that talking before I introduced her. So Olga, why don't you just say a quick hello, and then I'll just maybe ask a quick question, and then you give us a little bit of a taster of what it is that you're unpacking on the design level.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for having me on here. I'm excited to talk about these very juicy underneath layers of design. And my name is Olga Naiman, and I used to be an editor at House Beautiful magazine and a stylist at Domino magazine for many years. So I've been kind of on the reporting of trends and creating spaces for the magazines, and you know, creating spaces for clients like CB2 and West Elm and Target. So I have really been playing in the top levels of design, which is the function and the beauty. And, you know, this is the conversations that most of us have. But as I've been doing my own spiritual work and doing my own healing work, I'm a daughter of 2 psychiatrists, I'm really going underneath those top layers to really talk about these 2 more subtle layers, but that are so much fun and so powerful to really bring into your awareness which is the psyche and how design affects the psyche on a self-worth level, on like the choices that you make as a consumer about what you're bringing into your space with you and the clothes that you're wearing, and how you can make those choices very specifically with a lot of self-awareness to expand your sense of self-worth. And then as that expands, you begin to play with magnetism, manifestation, because as your self-worth expands, the specific choices that you make start pulling in more ease in your manifestation. And Feng Shui talks a lot about this. So it's not like a brand new thing, but bringing it in with psychology is a new kind of conversation that I'm very interested in.
That's awesome. I think that it's a layer that we're gonna keep unpacking more and more, and I think it's not talked about enough because it's less obvious and needs a lot more practice in detecting it. But I think sometimes when we gravitate towards something and we don't actually understand why, there's an energetic pull that's underneath the obvious. You know, for example, just seeing those images of all those, you know, fuzzy textures on you know, tables and chairs gives us an inner resonance, an inner experience of something, of comfort, of ease, of safety, or whatever. And we talk a lot about that in the creation, holding an intention as we create objects. But I think also as we're selecting objects is what you're bringing into shape, is holding the intention on what it is you want to create around yourself, whether it is in your space, in your office, in what you wear, holding that intention, and in such a way that you are actually magnetizing the objects that will make that reality come to life. So it's a deeper conversation. I know you have a great workshop coming up, which is on your social. Everything will be linked here, so you guys can check it out. But just, you know, helping people to really get under the senses that we're familiar with. I think we're familiar with kind of these top layer senses, you know, what we see, what we smell, what we could touch. And there's a whole lot of depth underneath those that are more connected to the energetic and the resonance field that we're just starting to unpack. And I'm glad you're writing a book about this, and I'm glad you're doing the work for all of us and questioning all of this. So it makes it a little bit clearer, because it's not a topic that's easy to explain. It's something that's felt, and you're giving words and structure and methodology to it. So I appreciate that. And if there's anything you want to wrap up with, but yeah, any of you that want to manifest a whole new reality in your space, in your home, that's what Olga is teaching in her workshop and in all of her material that she's putting forward.
Yes, yes, it's really about learning to see your home and your choices through different eyes as a magnet to uplevel your manifestational ability. And it's once you begin to play in those realms, life gets very magical and fun. So that is the workshop that I'm teaching, and the conversations that I really want to bring more into the larger sphere, so that people can create with more ease.
Yeah.
What a wonderful skill set to take into a new year too. So
yeah, yeah, totally. We can all use it, and let's create objects that are deeper in experience on all levels.
Anything alchemy, I love. So this is great. We put the link to the workshop, everyone. When you get the, of course, follow Olga on Instagram, but when you get this doc later, if you're interested in checking out the details of the workshop, it's right here for you. So
thanks for joining us, Olga, and more to be discussed and unpacked on this topic. It's one of my favorites, as you know.
thanks, Olga. Youth team, you guys want to go ahead and do some of your links? We're
Yeah.
down one man. Robbie is unfortunately feeling under the weather today, but Maria and Peter are here to represent the youth team.
Hi, I'm Maria. I'm the senior strategist for the youth team. And my first link is an article talking about how print magazines are making a really big comeback in 2024. We have the return of Nylon coming back, we have NME, Elle magazine is coming back, and Paper magazine is coming back, along with uh, catalogs and
Mhm.
newspapers are all going back into print. And part of the reason why I think this is so interesting for the youth consumer is because they're so used to digital media that for them, print media is kind of, it feels more authentic. And I think they kind of want to escape this algorithm targeting ads, niche trends. I think they're sort of looking for something that feels more comforting and slow. So I'm really curious to see if, like, in a year or two from now, we might see less like really fast-paced trends. Like the trend cycle might slow down if they adapt well to magazine content. So it's just something to kind of keep on your radar and look out for. But I do think for the youth consumer, it will play a huge role. And I also feel that they have like a sense of nostalgia for it because they missed out on waiting every month for that Nylon magazine to come so they can get their information. So I think this will be quite a shift in how content is created online and also in print.
Do you remember, Maria, when like Teen Vogue and some of the others were printed in like little tiny
Yeah,
versions on the newsstand, and how like you could like put it in your bag and everyone
yeah.
loved that size?
And I think another thing that makes it interesting is that there's like this collectability thing about having magazines. Like you can reference from years in the past, whereas everything online sort of it disappears so quickly. Even though it's there forever, you just move on so fast, you never look back. So I think, yeah, I think they want something that feels slow, something that feels untargeted, less noise, more news. I think they're just trying to escape the digital world for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great, and the youngest of them that you're talking about, Generation Alpha, many of them really never have experienced a true newsstand kind of experience, just because they were like tiny little toddlers when, print was big, and now they're like 13, 14 years old, and it's a completely niche and special thing to them. So I think you're right. And I think a lot of the magazines that we'll see come to print won't necessarily be the mainstream ones from before, although I know you said L, but I always look forward to like the niche magazines out there that I discover when I'm at a trade show or something, and then I order them online and they come from Europe or, other, Scandinavia. Like those are the ones that I love keeping on the shelf because people aren't as familiar with them, and they're usually printed with really beautiful paper. And
Yes, I
yeah.
totally agree. I think they'll become collectibles. It's a little bit like how millennials were collecting um, those records. We didn't need records. We had like Spotify, but we still wanted the record. So I think it'll
Yeah.
become that kind of um, item.
Yeah, Katie says that she used to keep all the September issues. I had like 12 years of GQs at one point, but at a certain point I just couldn't move with them anymore and they got left behind.
They were like my prized possessions.
Yeah. Well, they were thick back then.
They were huge. I
Not
loved,
anymore.
yeah.
So my next link is this term that has been popping up for the last, I guess, 3 months, 3 or 4 months. And the New York Times did a really good article. So the phrase is the Lulu is the Salulu, which means the delusion is the solution. This is like Gen Z coding. And it's kind of an extension of what manifestation meant for us, which is more spiritual. It's more how we want to perceive the world and how the world reacts with us. This is a kind of Gen Z are quite funny about it. They sort of take this delusional reality to create their own reality. And if you look at 2023, we had Julia Fox, who was she really embodied this movement. She was kind of not delusional, but she was so not interested in what the world was telling her was, acceptable and how she had to behave, and she kind of did her own thing, and she did it with a big smile on her face. So it's really interesting to see how manifestation got sort of rebranded into main character energy, and then into um, this sort of Delulu new phase. So I think it's kind of it's interesting to keep an eye out on. Again, I feel like Gen Z like to make light of things, and especially since it's such a chaotic world right now, this sort of form of this escapism with a sense of humor really fits the tone of the internet at the moment. So yes, I just wanted to put this on everyone's radar.
Awesome. I love when we learn a new term.
So my next link is more of a resource link. So it's a Wikipedia that's very specific on design aesthetics. And as we know, like TikTok has really like turned out so many micro aesthetics, it's almost impossible to keep track. I actually came across the site a couple of years ago and it was really small. Now it's huge. So you can scroll into this huge A to Z.
Wow.
um, yeah, like there's a lot of design aesthetics here, and what I really liked about it was that if you click into, let's say, one of the bigger buckets like Y2K or Gorpcore, something like that,
Yeah, let me do that.
sometimes they'll add videos, word bank, images. So it's just a really good resource to use if you ever get like kind of stuck in trying to figure out the reference or where things come from. So the site looks a bit virusy, but I think that's just the aesthetic of the site.
I think that's what they were going for.
That's what they were going for.
Yeah. Oh, this is cool. This is great for any of us in design, just because sometimes you just have something in mind and you can't like put your finger on it. So
Yes, and I love
super
that
cool.
they make it so they include videos, images, words. Like they don't just give a description. They kind
Mhm.
of go to the next level. So
Yeah.
it's very useful for anyone in
Oh
their
my God. I'm just
research.
like seeing a lot holosexual, seeing a lot of these that I've never seen before.
Yes.
This is great. Everyone's going to be on this today.
And then my last link is a video, TikTok video.
Oh, it doesn't have a link, Maria.
Oh no. Okay.
Can I look up something for you or?
Perhaps you can try. The trend is how to dress to impress a man.
Can
And
you have it on your computer? Could you chat it to me or put it in the?
yes, let me, um, one sec. Let me see how I can do this. Full screen. So it kind of goes along with what the beauty team was speaking to last in the last webinar we had, where they
Yeah.
were talking about unapproachable makeup, and the same thing is happening with young women who are being told to dress, to please a man, but young women are just so not interested in the male gaze at all. So it's kind of like these funny videos that keep going up, that kind like poke fun of, oh, this is how I should dress for a man. So let me see if I can find it for you, one sec.
Okay.
Any
Do you want
other?
me to move on? How about this? I'll
Yeah,
move on to we'll do Peter's links and then if you can pop it in the chat and I can come back to it.
will do. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Hi, Peter.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to share this first link with you. I've been obsessing over this little TikTok trend for a full week now. Just to give it a bit of context, if we can just pause it for a second.
Yeah, there we go.
At Youth, we've been tracking how travel is defining the streetwear landscape.
Sorry.
It's okay. And with European kind of budget airlines like Ryanair and EasyJet and more kind of tightening their luggage allowance and increasing the cost to bring more bags on board, Gen Z is finding creative ways to kind of bend the rules and get out of paying the big bucks to on luggage essentially. So one way that they're doing this is by wearing their entire kind of city break wardrobe rather than packing it all in a hold all. And so you actually really get this nice wave of cool layering that feels super anti-category. In our fall winter 24-25 product shift report, We touched on this kind of anti-category style where basic items are kind of reshuffled and worn in different ways to drive newness. So it's really nice to see it come through here. We can play the video now. It's
Of course, anyone that watched Friends, it's totally when Joey was wearing everything. Everyone knows that iconic scene in Friends. It's
exactly. And these videos are often tied with these cheeky messages like
Yeah,
best luck next time Ryanair and things like that. But from a styling perspective, you do actually get some really lovely shapes coming through, which is really nice. Speaking of anti-category, my next link is a nice kind of tie-in here. It's from influencer Luna Baba, who shows kind of anti-category pieces that transform and adapt, for example, from soft to structured. I'm loving this kind of reconstructed boot style. Just we're looking really kind of investigating kind of adaptability through this kind of like silly side, looking at silly functionalities. Like that leather piece is amazing, that kind of pops on and off. So you can wear the boots kind of super sleek or more slouched depending on your mood.
Wow, that's a boot.
Really obsessed with all of these. This account actually was part of one of our recent top 10 Instagram accounts reports that we do on a monthly basis, where we highlight designers and brands and influencers that we're really feeling excited by. So that's where we come across that one, a really interesting person to follow for sure. And then this last link that I have today is an exhibition from London called Anti-Furniture, which is essentially a parody of functionality. We know how much Gen Z loves satire and irony, and so it makes sense why videos of this exhibition are going kind of viral on TikTok, making it to the For You page. It's all of these essential pieces like the chair and the tables that are kind of reshaped to create a piece of personal theater for the users. So this can be found at London's Design Museum, and it's a must visit if you're at the city. The artist's name is Fyodor Pavlov Androvich. I'm definitely excited to try this one out. Apparently, it's a great way to get over some various different types of phobias as well, which is a really interesting thing. But I think especially going into the new year, we can all kind of enjoy some moments of playfulness, even if it's provided by a weird twisted chair.
I love it. And Maria, I got your link, so let me plop it in here. TikTok is
How to dress to attract a man, a tutorial. Rule number 1, make sure your hair is always long and lustrous and never put up. Rule number 2, make sure to show a little skin, especially those stems, ladies. Rule number 3, footwear should be dainty and delicate. Rule number 4, show off that waist at all times. Rule number 5, always have a pleasant expression on your face. I promise you will attract a man.
Yeah, I just think it's so funny how Gen Z they want to be interesting and weird and cool, and the male gaze is not it.
No, it's not. Thanks, youth team. I'm just gonna do one of my links. I'll save the other ones because this is so great and everyone's gonna love it. I've shared this with a bunch of people since it was published a couple weeks ago, and everyone's had a really positive reaction to it. So love this. New York Times to profile this amazing company that makes most of the cookie cutters in the world. And apparently, according to them, you can actually tell what's trending by what cookie cutters are selling. So I'll just take you through a few things. It's super cute. It's so wholesome. But the company's name is Ann Clark, and they're the largest cookie cutter manufacturer in the US. It accounts for 65% of all cookie cutter sales, which is about 12 million a year. And there are many people that are basically have a cult following of cookie cutters. And it's quite a lifestyle. If you read the article, the end of the article is really more about like the heritage of the company and what they've done. So they have come to realize that they can tell what's going to be trending by what sells. So for example, just after the 2016 election, they noticed that the percentage sales of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump cookie cutters roughly aligned with what the vote was. Also, last spring, guitar and musical note shapes began selling at a rapid clip just as the Eras tour got underway. And in July, cookie cutters shaped like lipsticks and convertible cars picked up steam, obviously thanks to Barbie Mania. And so the company itself has a really interesting strategy. They basically throw a wide variety of cookie cutters, about 5 million a year, 750 different shapes into the market to see what sells. And then they respond quickly to new fads and new trends. They have people on their team that pay attention to TikTok. And it's just been a really good play for them because the industry is dominated by so many companies that import their products from China and do a lot of mass merchandising. So its top sellers tend to be more offbeat shapes. Like a mason jar was a big hit in 2015, a llama in 2019. This year's breakout star was a gnome, and the company traced the popularity to the success of cottagecore, which of course we've talked about many times. And so for this year, for 2024, with nostalgia on the rise, the company is predicting that they're going to see a huge interest in 1960s and 70s psychedelia with shapes like mushrooms, peace signs. Also, given the post-pandemic surge in travel and revenge travel, they're seeing a lot of globes, stacks of suitcases, cameras, things like that. And also sometimes they notice in the article that random shapes suddenly take off and no one on the team can find any explanation. So a couple of examples that they finally have figured out. They wondered why sales of hexagons were jumping in the spring. They came to find out that it actually coincided with the Jewish holiday of Purim. And also there's a huge boom in moons around the same time. Come to find out it's because of Ramadan. So it's just a really good article. It's super wholesome. Read it, and you can actually just really get a good feel for kind of like what their family-owned company is all about. It really goes into actually also like how they make the cookie cutters, how so many now are like 3D printed in cheap plastic, and they actually do really beautiful things. The machines make 600 to 1,000 cutters in an hour. Anyway, check it out. It's a really fun article. I always love these kinds of articles just to kind of get a peek into niche parts of industries that we just aren't as familiar with. I always think it's super, super cool. But yeah, so I'm going to end it right there at noon, bring it back to our team. But thanks everyone for joining us for the first show and tell of the year. We'll see you back here on February 7th. And we'll follow up in your inbox later this week with all of the links to follow up on. Have a wonderful month. We'll see you in February, guys. Bye.